We try to bring you high-quality educational and informational content every single day. Why do you think the price is having such an anemic time? The news story of the hour. Jump onto the chart. Is this the beginning of a massive financial unraveling? We've got to add a little addendum to the show map today, so we start here on the daily. Now, we've been looking at the RSI on Bitcoin's daily chart for the last several days. It always has been, but it's been increasing over the last 50 years since the government has been getting bigger. Hey guys, what's going on? Jebb here, and welcome back to Coffee and Crypto. This is your weekday morning show where we bring you the latest Bitcoin and cryptocurrency technical, on-chain, and fundamental analysis on the Bitcoin and crypto markets. And in today's video, we are going to be discussing, is Bitcoin about to go up and rally all the way to $30,000 and break off into a new rally, or has this little capitulation that we've witnessed over just the last couple of hours going to lead us back down to $20,000 first? We're going to be discussing that because we're really excited about the fact that Bitcoin seemingly is moving out of its bear market into an accumulation phase, starting to trade sideways, and actually even in an ascending triangle pattern. If we are able to see Bitcoin break bullish out of this ascending triangle pattern, then we're likely going to see a little bit more bullish movement, maybe up towards $25,000, $26,000. But in just the next couple of days, when this ascending triangle pattern finalizes its pattern, then if we're not able to break bullish out of it, we will have broken bearish out of it, and that could lead us all the way back down to $20,000 to $22,000. Which direction is Bitcoin going? That is what we're going to be discussing today. We're going to be taking a deep dive on Bitcoin since we looked at a bunch of altcoins yesterday, kind of took a surface level look at Bitcoin yesterday. We're going to look a little bit closer on Bitcoin and make sure you guys are prepared for what you need to know for today's day of trading. If you guys enjoyed today's show, make sure to hit that like button. Let's see if we can get to 100 likes right out the gate. Make sure to subscribe to the channel if you are new here. And if you're seeing those green names in chat, we're going to shout out all of you guys in a minute. Those are our members. Consider hitting that join button down below, becoming a member, because you're going to get access to some great perks that you can see with that button down below. And you will get your name shouted out at the beginning of every single Coffee and Crypto. Cannot wait for today's show. We got a great guest coming up at halfway through the show. About 10:30, we'll be bringing him on. You guys know him. You guys love him. We cannot wait to bring him on the show. We're looking forward to it. But before we get to that, we have to introduce everybody else on the show because I am joined today, as always, by TA Tim. How you doing, Tim?
What's up, everybody? It's a good day. Not necessarily so far for the prices. It looks like we're taking a little bit of a dip, but that's okay because guess what? What goes down goes up, and unfortunately, though, sometimes what goes up goes down.
Except for BitConnect and Luna.
You know,
and Morgan Stanley.
They, technically speaking, Luna did bounce there for a second.
It did. It's true.
You know, I actually, there were stories, lots of people made a lot of money
and falling satellites
in that crash.
And rockets.
You know, it's
everything that goes down does not come up, Tim. You're just wrong on that.
Is that what you said? I thought you said
everything that goes down must come up.
I said everything that goes down will go, you know, and it went up, and then it laid to rest. You know?
It did. It actually did go up.
It bounced. It bounced. You know,
it bounced.
It's like set some lower highs.
And have you been keeping up with the price? It's probably still going up.
Yeah,
I don't think it's done yet.
Luna?
Yeah, I think there's still a project out there.
I think there's people.
Yeah, there's a project out there. It's just worth $2. Yeah.
Hey,
it's not that bad.
Hey, that's up.
It was only like $700.
That's above zero.
That is above zero.
No, that is up, dude, because it went down to like less than a cent.
That's true. This is true.
So what goes down must come up.
Science.
That's a law.
That was a great intro. We're also joined as always by Smay, who's bringing in the law. How you doing, Smay?
Guys, I have to sometimes act as the fact checker here.
That's right.
You know,
we need it. We need it in
I
our
have to
life.
sometimes join the show.
Tim fell over. No, Tim, come back.
I gotta join the
fell
show
out of his chair.
and make sure you guys here. Let me give you an example of fact checking, guys. Did you know that Chainlink is an Oracle protocol? Anyways, guys, I'm gonna move on here. I'm gonna read some green names. I'm gonna read.
What's that supposed to mean?
I'm gonna read some green names.
What is that supposed to mean?
So we have Elliot Locke, we got Gia S, we got Mitch Shaw, we got Mike Lowry, we got Sultan of Salt,
Feel attacked.
we got Agent Gold, we got Adam Rourke, we got Colin McDonald, we got Grand Roofing Incorporated, we got Tyler Main, we got Queen, we got Brad Geidel, we got Win Beebles, we got Christopher McFarland, we got who else we got here? I'm seeing so many names. We got PhillyFan61, we got Silent, we got Crypto JMP, we got Freedom Advocate, we got Tennis by Zarka, we got a Mellow Fellow. Wow, lots of green names. We got Corey. Oh,
does the Mellow Fellow drink Mellow
Yellow?
My
heart is full today. Anyways, back to you, Jeff.
Your heart is full today. Your heart is full today. I was watching the replay of the stream. When you're looking at Tim Smay, you had a twinkle in your eye.
Yeah, it was a twinkle of contempt.
We have an alliance.
Not after
Against
this morning.
who? Me?
No, I apologized.
Okay, thank you. Then our alliance is back on.
Oof. That's a pretty rocky alliance.
Oh,
okay.
you know what? Speaking of
trust.
of things that I trust,
I trust
one of
Capital.
them not being Tim.
No, alliance.
Okay.
We have an alliance.
One of them is Tim.
Okay,
But
good.
there's another thing I trust. It's I Trust Capital, guys.
Boom.
Come on. You thought that I was going to not do an ad right now? I'm definitely doing an ad. And I love I Trust Capital, guys. If you're talking about, hey, what's the number one way that you can store up wealth for the future and avoid those pesky taxes? This is how you do it with a Roth IRA. Everyone who has some financial sense has a Roth IRA or an IRA. And I'm telling you guys, we're in the future of finance. Why would you have a traditional Roth IRA? Oh, a traditional IRA? No, gross. You want a crypto IRA. And that's why we have I Trust Capital. Get a free $100 just for funding your account. Guys, check out link in the description.
You know,
Thank you.
real quick before we move on, because there's a lot of questions that was surrounding iTrust, and right now I don't think Coinbase is on as rocky a ground as people thought it was. You know, there was concern there for a second. I don't know how legitimate it was, but people were like, "Oh no, is Coinbase going down?" So people were like, "Oh, what happens to my iTrust money?" Because they were using a Coinbase wallet. What happens there? So we talked to some of you guys know Daniel Martin. Matt C is not even in chat today. I think he's at the DMV this morning. He texted me
poor
last
guy.
night. But he knows Daniel. He worked with Daniel over a year ago. But we got a text from him kind of asking, we asked him, hey, what's going on with this? What security do people have? And he sent a message back saying, Coinbase Custody is a standalone, independently capitalized business and fiduciary under New York State banking laws, backed by an insurance program that protects both offline and online assets across Coinbase products. Coinbase Custody is regularly audited by major financial and security audit firms. He went on to say that we are intermediaries, so if we fall off the face of the earth, everyone's assets are still theirs and they will still be trusted third-party vendors. So anyone who's wondering, hey, is my money secure when it's at iTrust? Absolutely, it 100% is. So anyone who is concerned about that, your fears
And that's
been
why
quelled.
we trust I Trust.
That's why we trust
That's
iTrust.
why we trust I Trust Capital, indeed. I have an I Trust Capital backpack, actually, that I tote my laptop around in. And you
on.
know where that backpack with my laptop is? On my couch. That's why I'm using T-Shroom's laptop. Speaking of T-Shroom, it's about time for the market pulse,
It
my
is.
friend.
You want to transition?
Oh, this was supposed to be discreet, Jeb.
Come on.
He's supposed to
We
sneak
didn't want
in.
Hey, I don't know
the
what he's
magic.
talking about, so I'm just gonna talk right now, and there's totally not gonna be anything going on the left side of me. You know, we're gonna jump into the Ethereum. Oh wow!
Whoa,
what happened to
T-Shroom?
T-Shroom? Where'd Tim go?
Whoa, he's wearing a pink shirt.
Whoa!
Guys, he's wearing. All
Whoa.
right, Tim, come on, have some class.
Have some class.
He
Come on.
has a pink shirt, and I love it today.
It's
wow,
pink. It looks great. To me. Your shirt looks green to me.
Green? Wow.
It's pink?
that looks green. What?
Yes.
All right.
It's pink.
Leave a,
Hey, don't make fun of me. I have a disability.
put the color of this shirt in the chat. Whoever
Guys,
gets it
it's
right.
definitely green.
What color do you think the dress was?
What dress?
That dress that went viral.
It was red.
Oh my goodness.
I'm kidding. It was blue and gold or blue and black.
Wait, so hold on. What color are our green names? Are they pink?
They're purple.
What? Really?
I'm joking.
Are they green?
No, but you are.
I'm.
Yeah. I don't know. It's weird.
I don't know.
I never
Now I
brought
feel
it
like
up
you're
because I was
trolling
worried
us.
about you. I didn't want you to. Yeah.
You're trolling us.
I am. I'm trolling you really
All right.
hard.
Anyways,
It's
back
pink.
to you. Back to you, T-Shroom. This is
Salmon. Yeah, that's
falling
true.
apart.
All right. Well, folks, if you're listening to the sound of my voice, you are having a very high heart rate right now because you're very excited for the market pulse. And we're gonna go ahead.
A little stimulated getting into the market pulse.
And we're gonna go ahead and dive on into that. All right, now.
All right, now.
Citibank says Ethereum's merge will have several consequences for the blockchain. So Citibank has done a little research here, and they've got some interesting takes that they want you to know about. And I want you to know about them too, because I think they're important. And if CoinDesk could get their act together with their header, then I would be able to read what Citibank has to say. Citi says switching from proof of work will reduce overall issuance of Ether by 4.2% a year. And with Ether eventually becoming deflationary, this may improve the case for the token as a store of value. Interesting, very interesting. Because Ethereum will be both yield-bearing and deflationary, it is less likely to be the blockchain with the highest throughput. Let me know in the comments which you think the blockchain with the highest throughput might be. But post-merge ETH could be viewed as a relatively energy inefficient and environmentally friendly crypto asset, as energy expenditure is expected to decrease 99.95%.
Wow.
The note added. So essentially, completely eliminating its energy expenditure. Basically, City is saying here that the merge isn't going to increase throughput, which I think we've reported on that. We've known that the merge will not increase throughput. It's going to be the sharding later on, probably in 2023 or 2024, 2028, whatever. But that will, in theory, increase the throughput and decrease the fees. But this merge is really only going to decrease the energy expenditure, and that's something we've known about. Citibank does say that it will increase the throughput around 4.2%. Will reduce overall issuance. Excuse me. So, Jebb, I kind of want to get your take. I mean, it sounds like we've known kind of about this takeaway from Citibank, but now Wall Street knows about it as they're reading this report from Citibank. What do you think this is going to do to the price of Ethereum?
Well, I think what you're going to see happen is that when Ethereum goes through the 2.0 merge, you're going to see probably a lot of volatility. Now, there's two different arguments as to what could happen with that volatility. Either Ethereum could go through an absolute moonshot rally because it rallying up to Ethereum 2.0 kicked off a rally in the rest of crypto. You could see Bitcoin at 25K, Cardano at 72 cents, breaking through resistance that we discussed over there at that time on September 19th, if it goes smoothly. Or maybe this is not a big enough catalyst to get the whole market moving, and the rest of the market being kind of boring and stale drags Ethereum back down. It rallies up to $2,000, $2,200, all the way up to the launch of Ethereum 2.0 if it comes out on time, and then it's a drop. So there's a lot of things that go into this. This is a really, really, really difficult launch to predict what it's going to do, because one, you got to realize first of all, it might not happen. The merge might not happen on September 19th. Two, there's also an FOMC meeting the 2 days following, September 20th and 21st. That is something that we'll discuss in a little bit, but that could lead to a pretty big change in the direction of crypto, because the the interest rate data is so important to cryptocurrency. Tomorrow we're going to be getting inflation data. That can change the direction of crypto. I think we're going to get inflation data one more time before the Ethereum 2.0 merge. Then, as the article is talking about, Citi says switching from proof of work will reduce overall issuance of Ether by 4.2% a year, and will with Ether eventually becoming deflationary, this may improve the use case for the token as a store of value. I do think that Ethereum is going to become more of a use case for store of value if its token issuance goes down. We saw that drop quite a lot with the burn mechanic implemented in EIP 1559. If we do see it start to become deflationary, then yes, you're going to start to see it become more of a store of value. But I don't think a cryptocurrency being a store of value makes it any less that doesn't stop it from being able to be utilized as a layer one infrastructure that you build things on top of. Bitcoin has trouble with having a lot of transactional throughput because of its small block sizes and long block times. So it takes 60 minutes to send a transaction, fully confirm it with 6 block confirmations, and you also only have about 7 transactions to about 12 transactions per second, depending on how everything's going on Bitcoin. That's the reason that Bitcoin isn't used in way more transactions. It's not because of store of value that stops that. So if Ethereum does start to become more of a store of value, then actually all that does is that boosts the use case for it being a currency, whereas Bitcoin might get left behind as a store of value. So actually, if Ethereum's issuance slows down enough where it becomes deflationary or near deflationary, I don't think that would actually stop it from becoming a currency that's used regularly. I think that would actually boost the use case for it becoming a currency that's used regularly, because a currency must be fungible, which means you can transact one for the other. If you have a $10 bill and I have a $10 bill, we switch them, we have the same amount of value. They don't have different values. They are the same if it's nominally the same. It needs to be able to be transacted easily, which Ethereum is relatively easy to transact in a post-ETH2 world after sharding comes online. And it also needs to be able to store value into the long term. Ethereum, to be honest with you, if it did become deflationary, other than centralization concerns, which are extremely important, you could actually argue might be a better currency for transacting on small amounts daily than Bitcoin. I don't think it's going to get adopted in that form. I think you're going to see Lightning Network and other things push forward on Bitcoin, which will allow for Ethereum to remain as mainly an infrastructure protocol. But if it becomes more of a store of value token, a cryptocurrency, I think that actually boosts this use case as a currency. But I would love to hear your thoughts on that, T-Shroom. What do you think about that?
Well, cryptocurrencies need to be used as currencies, right? And so I think Ethereum, it's used as a currency right now, especially for buying NFTs. Its use case for purchasing actual goods out in the world is pretty high compared to others. Flow is pretty big in terms of its use case for actually purchasing things, NFTs again. But our next story is actually about using cryptocurrency to buy things. So I'm going to go ahead and slip right into that. Iran executes first crypto-centric import worth $10 million. I'm
sorry.
What's that?
I said, where do you run?
So we're gonna sail right past that joke, and we're gonna keep going.
It's a dad joke. He's a dad.
It's true. That's true.
Yes. So, so this is the Vice Minister of Industry, Mine and Trade, and President of Iran Trade Promotions. So this is an official Twitter account of the government of Iran in some form or fashion. But this week, the first official import order was successfully placed with some Iranian company worth $10 million. By the end of December, the use of cryptocurrency and smart contracts will be widespread in foreign trade with targeted countries. So this, before you get too excited here, this is not necessarily a great article, and I'm going to tell you why. But first, let's get into the details. This week, the first official import order registered worth $10 million was successfully completed using cryptocurrency. And back in March of last year, for instance, the Iranian Presidential Center for Strategic Studies called for the nation to mine cryptos like Bitcoin and aid the country tread through the international sanctions placed. So just some backstory. Here it is. Notably, back in 2018, the U.S. reimposed sanctions that had been suspended 3 years earlier as part of Iran's nuclear deal with major world powers. So to the U.S. and its allies, Iran is seen, and we're not going to wade too much into this, but Iran is seen as an enemy. And so the U.S. has to impose sanctions similarly to how they've imposed sanctions on the Russians. Okay, so what does that mean? It means that the world and most of the world, only the part of the world that isn't allied with the U.S., which is a pretty small minority, but the world cannot trade with Iran. So Iran is kind of looking for a way to obfuscate those sanctions and continue to trade, and they're turning to cryptocurrency. So is this a good headline? Kind of no, because one thing that has been not on the table for a long time in the U.S. is to ban crypto. That is something we have been blessed with, and it's something that we've started to take for granted, and is kind of something we may need to reconsider when we see headlines like this. These are the headlines that you want to see coming out of Canada, out of the U.S., out of Australia, out of the U.K., out of Germany, out of Japan, out of Singapore, out of South Korea, even out of Brazil and Chile. You want to see developed countries that are in good standing with the U.S. and just kind of the UN. You want to see them doing this. And unfortunately, Iran is the one taking the step forward in making these big moves and importing goods using cryptocurrency. Now, one thing that's interesting to note is that the cryptocurrency they used is not reported here, and from what country they imported is also not listed here. When that news gets out, it's going to make this story, probably a lot dimmer, because my guess is that they imported it from a country like Venezuela or Cuba, and they used who knows what cryptocurrency. I'm not even going to speculate on that because I have no idea. But it's not going to look good, and there's, it potentially opens up the door for an Elizabeth Warren type to come out and say, hey, look, I was right about cryptocurrency, all the bad guys are going to use it. So not a great headline, but it is an interesting headline because it could flip the other way. And other countries that have a little bit better standing in the world may start to follow suit. Potentially some African or South American countries could do something. But in the meantime, this is a pretty big story. But Jebb, unless you had any thoughts on that, we can slip right on into inflation, which is just right around the corner.
Yeah, no, I think the thing to remember is that we saw something similar coming out of Russia I think they were buying oil from Turkey. Were they buying oil from Turkey? There was several months ago, Russia bought something with Bitcoin. I forgot what it was. And we had a similar concern that, okay, well, this is great. Sovereigns are using Bitcoin for import-export. Sovereigns are using Bitcoin cryptocurrencies for transactions on the international stage. That's wonderful. The issue that T-Shroom's bringing up is very important, is that, well, there's a geopolitical question. So what you're going to see happen over the next 5-10 years is you're going to start to see, I think, two factions in the U.S. House and Senate, where you're going to start to see some parts of the U.S. Congress going in the direction of, no, Bitcoin is libertarian. Bitcoin gives power back to the people that voted me in, to my constituents. It helps with financial sovereignty. It helps with combating inflation. It is a great investment vehicle for the people that I represent to make money and to go forth and be able to provide for their families and store wealth into the future. Then, on the other side, you're also going to have the people in Congress and in government that are very much so, well, it's a threat geopolitically. Well, it helps nations that we're enemies with. Well, it is not good for us, for our national interests. And that's a very difficult conversation, because I think everybody wants at least I hope that many people in the United States want the little guy to do well and to be able to save money and do better things for their family. That being said, most people also want to protect national security interests, like making sure that Iran, who's got involved with the nuclear deal, isn't getting nuclear weapons. So that's a very touchy political subject. I'm not going to comment on. I'm just going to bring it to you and make sure you realize that Bitcoin is going to fork the cryptocurrency. It's going to divide Congress in another way based on libertarian or big government lines. And this is a good example of some of the foreshadowing of that. I've been saying for 5 years now, over 5 years, you are going to see Bitcoin and cryptocurrency become one of the most divisive issues that will show us whether our politicians are for small government and for the little guy or for big government and for their own power. This is a good example. We'll see how the U.S. responds to this. Hashtag FinSolve in chat. I see that represent. Let's go ahead and do some more of that. But yeah, we can go ahead and move on.
Very nice. Well, we are going to end off on what is coming up tomorrow, some big, important data, and that is the U.S. inflation rate year over year. It's forecasted to be 8.7, and it was previously 9.1. So the forecast, all the smartest economics that are trying to help Humpty Dumpty, they have predicted that it's going to be coming down, right? You can see here's the chart over the last year or so that's been kind of showing the precipitous climb of our U.S. inflation rate. And so tomorrow we will be covering it. The number will be out at 8:30. We'll be covering it at the normal time that we go live at 10. And we're going to absolutely bring you coverage of that. And folks, if it's higher than 9.1, what does that mean? That basically means that the Fed has every incentive to do a 100-point basis hike. Yeah, right. So every time, and the last 3 or 4 rate hikes have been 75 basis point hikes. So it stands to reason that if the inflation rate is continuing to tick higher, especially at an accelerated rate, if it goes up to 9.6 or 9.7, they're absolutely going to be strongly considering a 100-point basis point hike. But if it's below and it comes out at forecast at 8.7, then the Fed, depending on how the other inflation and the other unemployment numbers come out in next month, they could potentially come down to 25 basis point hike, or 50. Excuse me. They could come down to 25, but 50 would be much more in the cards, and that is actually what we're seeing from the CME futures, which trade and try to predict that this represents 50 and this represents 75. So it has actually flipped again, which is pretty wild. Let me make sure I'm getting this right. Yeah. So the one on top represents 75. I don't know, Tim. I don't think we covered this in the morning planning. So we're actually
I was just looking at
discovering this for the first time. So the CME futures have actually flipped again. So the futures traders are actually predicting 75 now again. Yep. Yesterday was.
Yeah, no, I saw it this morning.
Yeah, I saw that just now.
Yes, so
it's pretty huge.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we'll definitely be tuned. It just increases the importance of tomorrow's numbers. We're really hoping, obviously, everybody in the market is hoping that inflation does start to tick down. But one thing to keep in mind, just because it starts to tick down, yes, that's going to flood the market with some bullishness, but that doesn't mean that it's going to come all the way down to the Fed's target rate of 2% overnight. Estimates are that 2% rate, we could come as late 2024. We don't know. We don't know how long that inflation is going to persist. And also, hopefully by mid-2023, we will know if it's actually supply side or demand side inflation, and then the Fed will act accordingly. And that's going to change the paradigm of the entire Fed policy and the way that the market's responding to that. So that's all we've got for the market pulse. Big day tomorrow. Going to get some inflation numbers, and that's going to definitely shake up these CME futures numbers, which are, I guess, looking like they're going to anticipate that we're going to miss that forecast of 8.7. It's that is what I'm interpreting those numbers to mean, is that we're going to miss the forecast, and it's going to come out higher than 8.7. But we shall see.
It is true.
That just means that a beat is not baked into the market, which means tomorrow, if we do beat, then you would want to be long the S&P. You would want to be long probably Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. So definitely be getting your hedge fingers ready and trade what you can within reason. Only trade what you can afford to lose. This has been your Market Pulse, folks. I am T Shroom. You can find me on the interwebs at T Shroom.
Boom. Thank you so very much, Taylor. Thank you very much, T Shroom. We really appreciate you coming on and doing that market pulse. Thing to remember, guys, is that you need to be watching out for when we hit the so-called peak inflation. When do the year-over-year inflation data reported monthly, when does that start going down. When did we start seeing that go down? As you can see, T-Shroom was bringing up the article. You can see the historical data. In January, we were 7.5, March 7, February 7.9, then 8.5, then 8.3, then 8.6, then 9.1. Now we're forecasting 8.7. But if that does go up to 9.4 or something, and that indicates that inflation is not starting to get under control, then that could end up being very bearish for the market, and it could end up leading to the Fed having another 75 or even, as he said, 100 basis point rate hike. It's really, really important that that inflation starts coming down, because when that inflation starts coming down year over year, as is reported monthly, that's going to allow the Federal Reserve to stop being as hawkish and raising interest rates as much. Then they're going to hopefully pull back and start raising interest rates a little bit less, and then they're going to be able, and then that's going to inject a lot of hope into the market. Now, the thing to keep in mind is that when you raise interest rates, it takes months, if not well over a year, for that to really have a major impact on inflation, because supply chains are so long in time. From the beginning of a supply chain all the way until consumer can be multiple years. So for anything that happens to the price of a product or a good or a service or jobs or anything at the beginning of the supply chain, that value has to go all the way through the supply chain before it gets to the consumer. So when you change things like interest rates, well, it takes time for different companies to go out and get loans based on that interest rate, then utilize that capital, buy resources, and actually run that through a supply chain. So just because we have interest rates going up 5 months in a row now does not mean that inflation is about to get under control because of those rate hikes. It could be several more months before inflation starts to taper down. And also keep in mind, it's not just rate hikes that slow down inflation. There's a lot of other things that go into this. Pay very close attention either on this channel or at least somewhere to that inflation data, because when that starts coming down, that is going to probably be one of the biggest turning points that we've seen in Bitcoin since November 10th, when we hit all-time high. But Tim, I'd love to hear any of your thoughts on that.
Yeah.
Then we can jump into a little bit of TA, and then we have a guest.
Well, I mean,
We're
yeah,
excited
real
for it.
quick. I mean, jump to my chart real quick
Do it.
here, Smay. I love to talk about the news as we look at the chart. So we're dipping. I talked about this on my Twitter earlier. I posted this morning. Ethereum actually broke out of its rising wedge, and Bitcoin did the same thing. And here's the question I saw in chat. People are like, why is Bitcoin going down right now? Well, guess what? Part of it's going to be with the numbers that T-Stream was just talking about. The fact that we have inflation numbers coming out. The CME futures predictors are now saying, they flipped their thing from yesterday saying they thought it was going to be 50. Now it's 75. Here's the thing. I don't know why we're surprised by this. When we saw those job report numbers come out, guess what those job report numbers, and it was around this time right here, those job report numbers said, guys, right now, whether you think this is real or not, the numbers that the Fed is going to be utilizing to make their decision are actually putting us in a spot where their definition of recession, now linked to credit card usage, which I don't understand that one, and then also unemployment numbers, gives them more of an argument to say we're not in a recession. Well, guess what? Remember we talked about how Jerome Powell's between a rock and a hard place? If we're in a recession, he has to lower interest rates. If we with his inflation numbers, he has to raise interest rates. Well, we just got numbers kind of saying, hey, guys, right now recession isn't a massive concern. Therefore, where is he going to go? He's going to go to fix inflation. And with this report that T-Shroom just read, talking about how we think inflation, that 8.7 predicted, is probably not going to hit the mark, is going to go a little higher than that. What is the Fed going to do? What is Jerome Powell going to do? He's going to go after inflation. What does that mean? He's going to raise the interest rates. What does that mean? That means there's going to be more power flowing to the dollar. What does that mean? That means that with more power to the dollar, there's less power to the equity, stock market, crypto space. So this rally we had, I said this before, I didn't think it should have happened. I don't think there was any narrative pushing us from when we bounced right here around 23,000 and rallied all the way up to 24,200. There wasn't actually a case for it. I think this was more of a manipulation pump before a dip coming, like a bull trap. And guess what? We're dipping now because whether people needed the confirmation or not, we're getting the confirmation. Guys, it's not in a space right now ready for Bitcoin to explode. And we're going to discuss this with George here in just a second.
Yes, we are.
I want to know, because it's not over yet. Like, the question of this, the title question is, which will we see first, pretty much? A $30,000 Bitcoin or a $20,000 Bitcoin? I don't know if just because we're dipping, that means we're going to dip all the way down to 20,000. I think there's some strong support levels at 22 and 21 before we're worried about 20 itself. I still think we could hit 30,000 before hitting 20,000. But there are so many people acting like we're going to do that within the next 2 or 3 days, and that's just not the case. There's not really a lot of bullish momentum in the space right now to warrant a $30,000 Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. And the only way that we would get to $30,000 is that if the Bears' strength just completely dried up overnight. Because, like you said, there's not a lot of strength in the Bulls right now. The reason that we're trading sideways right now is because there's not a lot of strength from either faction. Clearly, there's not a lot of strength from the Bears either, or we would be seeing Bitcoin drop down to $22K, $20,000, $17,000. Right now, most of the big power players in this space are sitting on the sidelines waiting for a movement. They're not confident that Bitcoin's going to go down far enough that it warrants them getting into a big short position, but they're also not confident enough that the bottom is in to warrant getting into a long position. What we're seeing right now is a lot of small but large but stretched over large time frame accumulation. There's a lot of accumulation going on. There's a lot of changing of hands from weak hands to strong hands, but nothing that can really bring about a catalytic event that can kick us off in one direction or the other. And that, I suppose, will kick us right into our discussion with none other than one of our favorite guests on the channel. His name is George. We are all George. And we're going to be talking about with him today whether or not Bitcoin is about to go to $30,000 or $20,000. George, welcome to Coffee and Crypto. How are you doing?
Hey, Jebb and team. I'm glad to be here again.
Well, thank you very much for being here. And you said in chat that Tim's looking swole. So, Tim, what do you have to say for yourself? You feeling swole?
I mean, this is kind of how I normally look. I mean, people give me I wear hoodies from time to time. I wear T-shirts. This is, I'm a big guy.
There you go.
I'm a big guy.
I meant that in a good way. I meant that you've been.
No, I know
it.
it. We know what you meant.
Oh no, I'm a big guy. Used to do a lot of heavy lifting with my shoulder injuries. I don't do heavy anymore, but I'll still get in there and put in some work. So
there you go, man. I'm looking forward to getting back in the gym. I think things have calm down a little bit so I can go start actually having time to go to the gym. I'm looking forward to it. I love working out. It's very fun. As you can see, I probably haven't done it in a long time, but I'm very excited for today's show. And George, I cannot wait to jump into some analysis with you.
Real quick, I've never seen that background
I was just
before.
about to ask for that. George, did you get a new setup?
Oh yeah.
Where are all the Legos?
I had to compete with you guys, man. So I've upgraded everything. So
well, I'm flattered.
That means we have to now change our set. If George is coming for us,
that's right.
It's time to update, Smay.
Yes.
It's upgrade time, baby.
Upgrade time. Boom. Well, thank you very much, George. By the way, I gotta ask, where are the Legos? Didn't you have some Legos in the background of your old set?
it's right next to me. So I have this extra room, a mini gym here. Repurposed it for my new studio. Right next to me is my Lego room. It is jam-packed. I can't even build any more Legos because there's just nowhere to put it. So I've kind of stopped building, but I'm still buying.
I want to get I feel that. I want to get the giant Imperial Star Destroyer one that's like this big. That's what I want, but it's like $800. And yeah, I think I'm going to hold off for right now and put that kind of money into Bitcoin instead.
That's a bull market purchase.
That's a bull market purchase right there. That's a sell some of your Bitcoin at $300,000 and maybe buy some Legos to treat yourself. Anyway, guys, we got a lot to break into. So, George, I want to ask your opinion, just kind of in a broad sense. What is your opinion of the market right now? Naturally, we were in a bear market from about November 10th when Bitcoin hit 69K. We've been trading sideways for the last couple of months. What's your general opinion on what the next 3 months are going to look like? And then we can, jump into some more details with that.
Sure. I was watching what Tim was just saying, what you were saying, Jebb, in terms of the overall economy with inflation. And, there's a lag, right? Obviously, with rate hikes, there's a lag, but this is how I look at it. All of us, well, at least all of us on, talking right now, not everyone in the audience, but if you go back to 2018, remember when we fell down to, around 3,000? I think people forget or didn't know that once we hit that 3,000 mark and, we stayed there for months, right? No one really knew what was coming. At that point, it was very fearful. Bitcoin went up to 20,000, now down to 3,000. It dropped 80-something%. And people didn't know whether or not we were going to go lower. So we kind of just stayed there between 3,000 to 4,000 for like 3, 4, 5 months. Then we finally started, growing back and getting out of that kind of like hole, right? And it makes me feel like right now is one of those times. So we haven't really gone up in any significant way. We're still around the 20,000 mark, even though we're a little bit higher at 23,000, but still, we haven't gone back to 30,000 and beyond. We're kind of just hovering, going sideways, slow and steady, like, a little bit of a recovery, a little bit of an incline, right? But overall, we're still kind of going sideways, and it reminds me of that. And that's because there's just a lot of things going on, a lot of fear out there, right? The macro conditions are horrible. The headwinds that Bitcoin has faced, and there's more that it's going to face, has been absolutely horrible, right? So with all these headwinds, it can't just skyrocket back up to 69,000. There's no way that it's going to happen. But if you look at Bitcoin at 23,000 right now, despite everything else, I would say we're in a fantastic position, a really good position. Yes, we did breach below 20,000. We briefly hit that 17,000 mark. And yes, we did have a lot of projects go belly up, like 3 Arrows Capital, Celsius, Voyager, and all that, right? But now we're moving beyond that. We're getting past that. And the community is still strong. The holders are still strong. And we still see great fundamentals. We still see addresses going higher and forming new all-time highs each and every week, right? So I think we're in an amazing spot. We are in recovery, but we're not going to see that, skyrocket upwards until some of the macro conditions get better.
So then what are some of those macro conditions? Because naturally, I think the inflation, the conflict in Eastern Europe, the aftershocks of shutting down the economy and all the supply chain issues that we're still facing, the interest rates being high, all of these headwinds, like you were talking about, are really holding Bitcoin back. But what is it going to take for Bitcoin to either, one, be able to push through those headwinds, or two, for those headwinds to let up enough that Bitcoin can actually start that next bull market?
We need to see continued momentum. We need to see more money flowing, obviously. We need to see a lot more buying going on. So keep in mind, the stock market is not a predictor of now. It's a predictor of the future. People are buying based on what they think will happen, right? And we're starting to see more money go into the stock market, obviously, right? People are starting to predict that the rest of this year, the macro conditions will improve. They won't improve to pre-2020 levels, but they will improve, meaning, well, food prices will come down. Supply chain issues will get better. Oil prices, energy prices will come down. These are things I talk about pretty much daily. People are anticipating these things will improve. Now, as for the core inflation, as for the money printing that has happened, well, that's not going to improve. But all these other external factors, these headwinds, are going to improve. That's why you see traders on Wall Street and Bitcoiners kind of stocking up a little bit more, right? But they're still fearful, just like all previous times. You still want to protect your wealth, right? You don't want to go all in case something else happens, because there are things that unexpectedly happens all the time, right? What if there's a war that breaks out between Taiwan and China? Like stuff like that we can't predict, right? So that's why you also still have to be careful. You can't just go all in now. If you do, then you don't have any money left over if things get worse. So I think that's just how it is. Things are improving, but there could be unexpected things that are still coming. That's why people are not going all in and just like putting all their money in, right? But we're seeing that already. We're seeing slow trickle money coming into the space. Otherwise, Bitcoin wouldn't be at 23,000 and the markets wouldn't be recovering. So we're starting to see a little trickle, but I think we need to get past a little bit more, I guess. A little bit more time needs to pass to kind of reassure people that things are improving and won't get worse. That's pretty much the bottom line.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree with you on that. But let's look at because we've talked a lot about the fundamentals so far, the headwinds. Let's also look a little bit at the technicals, because I think it's important that we look at both. We have to look at the fundamentals. We got to look at, as you said, there could be conflict in Taiwan relatively soon. There is conflict in Europe. There are supply chain issues. There's food shortages going on around the world. There's inflation. There's interest rates. I don't mean to be gloomy, but these are real things that we have to face. Those are fundamental, and those definitely have an impact on Bitcoin. But of course, there is also the technical element. And if you look at my chart over here, you can see that Bitcoin, for example, is starting to push back above the 200 weekly simple moving average. You can see that on the weekly chart, we just had a bullish MACD cross, the likes of which we have not seen since about about the mid-August 2021, which led into a pretty big rally. Now, we had a little fake out right here, and maybe we go through a fake out, but I don't think that's the case. This is the lowest bullish MACD cross we've ever seen in history, and we're seeing a lot of other forces indicating that the bottom may have just come in, like TD Sequential hitting 9 and getting massively overextended, not to mention a dozen other that we could talk about. Technically speaking, it's starting to look like Bitcoin is has bottomed around $17,000. So I just want to ask you, how much should we be looking at the technicals for bottoming information on Bitcoin right now, or the fundamentals? Which one is really holding us back, the technicals or the fundamentals, and which one is really going to start to give us more of an insight on where Bitcoin, when Bitcoin is going to go back into that bull market?
Technicals are definitely not a forecaster. Technicals, every indicator is a lagging indicator. Basically what has happened, right? So what's holding Bitcoin back is not due to technicals. It's due to the macro conditions right now. But with that said, the technicals does give us insight into what has happened before, right? It makes correlations with previous bottoms. And there's no doubt that if you look at kind of like the bigger picture from a technical perspective, like the weekly scale, monthly scale, Bitcoin has never been this oversold. If you look at the RSI on a monthly, never, ever has it been this low. And some of the things you point out, the MACD flipping upwards. And if you look at some of the other levels, other indicators, basically they're saying Bitcoin has bottomed and is recovering. Now, I do think that if something disastrous happens in the world, like let's say another war breaks out, the technicals go out the window. Bitcoin can go lower and it could become even more oversold, right? So you can't rely on it 100%. And that's why I always say technicals, they work until they don't. TA works until they don't. That's just how I see it. But if we're in, let's just say the conditions just start improving, nothing out of the ordinary happens, and we're getting back to normal, then yeah, I would definitely say that if you look at the technicals, we're a lot closer to bottom than we are to top. That is a certainty, right? And if you're looking at it from that perspective, well, if we're a lot closer to bottom than we are to top, and possibly we have formed that bottom, then why would you not buy right now? This would be a golden buying opportunity, right? So that's kind of how I look at it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I think your perspective on that is wonderful. As you said, the fundamentals, they're going to come in and override the technicals if something big happens. If we have another gigantic supply chain crisis, or if we have a conflict in Taiwan or somewhere else, then that can come in and that can bring a lot of FUD into the S&P 500. That can bring a lot of FUD into the rest of the economy and also naturally into Bitcoin and cryptocurrency. I just want to read a comment here from chat that somebody said, and it's something people have said about me also. They said George would be bullish in a nuclear war. And, people have been accusing me of this for 4.5 years, like, oh, Jebb, you're a permabull. And, people accuse you of that. And I don't think that there's anything wrong with being bullish on the long term. So I'm not saying I agree with these allegations, but I want to ask your opinion. Why are you, I know why I am, because I agree with you, but why are you so bullish on the long term? And maybe can you clarify for people that doesn't always mean that you're bullish on the short term, but that you believe in Bitcoin and what it stands for and where it's going?
Yeah. So many of us has been through, 2017. I got in a little bit earlier. So I got in 2014. I saw that dip where Bitcoin fell down to 160. So I've lived through that, lived through 2018, right? Lived through 2020. And even though some of those dips did not last as long as our current dip, but you just look at every single dip, basically Bitcoin forms a higher low, right? And if you look at those levels, those lows, we're nowhere close to those lows. Like I said, in 2015 or 2014, Bitcoin fell to $160, right? Then the next low was about 3,000 in 2018, ended 2018. Then we had about 4,000, 3,800 in 2020, right? So look at our bottom. Let's just say it was 17,000, right? We're forming higher bottoms. So that's kind of how I look at it. It's like, have conditions gotten so bad, or has the price gotten so bad that we have gone backwards? Now we're back to pre-2015 level or 2020 levels or whatever. No, no. And that's just measuring Bitcoin. If you measure something like Ethereum, Ethereum is way, way, way higher. I still remember March in 2020 when Ethereum fell to like $82.
Yep.
Where is Ethereum now? 1,800, 1,700, and people are complaining that it's bad now. 1,800 Ethereum versus $82 Ethereum. What's better, right? What's worse? So I've lived through some of these periods where things were really, really bad, like really horrible, horrific times. And every single time when it seemed like, well, Bitcoin's not going to come up, the market's dead, it's not going to come up, and we may be hovering there for months, it does. And what I've learned is those fearful times are when you're supposed to be buying. That's how life-changing wealth is made, by buying during those times and buying low, not while buying high. Even though there are many times where you can buy high and still make money, but overall, most people do not buy when things are down. They buy when we are in full-blown recovery. They FOMO in, and when things come down, they get trapped, right? So, and that happens to all of us. Still happens to me, happens to all these investors out there. There's no one that could time top or bottom exactly. But the one thing that I've learned over the years is you got to buy when others are fearful. We have seen much worse conditions, maybe not from a macro perspective, from a Bitcoin and crypto perspective, much worse. And basically, I've also learned that whenever I try to outsmart the market, like I kind of poke fun of Cathie Wood right now because she's trying to do that. Whenever I try to outsmart the market and say, okay, I'm going to sell this right now because I think it's going to go lower, or buy back in, or I'm going to sell this for that, or whatever, anything to try to help me basically be smarter and outsmart the market. Every time I try to do those kind of moves, especially during dark times and fearful times towards bottoms, they end up being mistakes. And I've calculated, had I just held on and DCA'd and done nothing, I would have been up even more.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Doesn't mean that these trades end up in losses. It just means that had I held on to whatever I held and didn't make any trades, I would have benefited even more. So that is something I've also learned, and many people have told me that too, that after all the trades, the hundreds or thousands of trades that they have done over the years, some of them have recalculated, had they just held on to Bitcoin or Ethereum or whatever, Cardano, whatever it may be, they would be up more had they not done anything. So these are things that make me bullish, and why I continue forward, because I think right now is not nearly as bad as before, and we could definitely profit from it.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so glad I saw a video that explained exactly what you were talking about when I was like a month into crypto. I think it was August or September 2017. And this guy, I remember I don't remember who it was. It wasn't anybody who, I've seen since. It wasn't one of the YouTubers that we know now that grew up and, had a giant channel. I don't remember who it was, but I remember the video. And he said in the video, I've been trading Bitcoin, doing thousands of trades for the last 4 or 5 years. He'd been in since 2012 or something to that effect. And he said, if I had just held Bitcoin and not traded, I would actually be up way more right now than if I hadn't have traded and put all that hour. And he talked about all the time that he spent trading. He could have made the same amount of money and then use that time for something else, like spending time with his family. Not to say that we shouldn't, work and trade and do things to provide, but he could have spent that time differently. And I just, for everybody who just heard what George said, please take that as heed, because I'm so glad that I heard what George just said, almost verbatim, 2 months into crypto, because the vast majority of the gains I've made in crypto have been from investing and holding long term. And you just cannot forget the power of that. But George, let's talk a little bit about the concept of, Ethereum 2.0 and the fact that there's an FOMC, Federal Open Market Committee meeting coming up on the 20th and the 21st of next month. ETH 2.0 is slated to launch September 19th. FOMC is meeting September 20th and 21st. They'll likely be delivering their decision on interest rate hikes soon thereafter. Do you think that, one, if Ethereum's Ethereum 2.0 happens and goes well, and we maybe see a 50 basis point rate hike rather than 75, could that potentially be the catalyst that we could see allowing for Bitcoin to take off back into a bull market? Or do you think that there's something else on the horizon that's more likely to get that started?
I think tomorrow is going to be absolutely huge.
Agreed.
Tomorrow will set the stage for the remaining FOMC meetings. So obviously, this month we don't have a meeting. Next month we have, like what you said, right? But the CPI number coming out tomorrow is really going to tell whether or not the U.S. is improving, right?
Yeah.
From all indicators, tomorrow's CPI numbers, inflation numbers should be down, because in June we had a spike up with everything, especially with energy, especially with gas. We saw, gallons of gas in U.S. hit like $6 or $7, unseen levels before. Right now, as we have started coming back down, and in July, right? So most likely we're going to see numbers go down. But here's the thing: if tomorrow's CPI numbers come out and it's horrible, everything's going up, headline inflation, core inflation, everything is heading up, then all bets are off. Okay, then the market is going to crash. The remainder of this month will crash, and September is probably going to be. The rates has to be a lot higher, right? Then Powell and his buddies, the board of governors, they have to be very aggressive. So right now, I think the market already priced in. It's probably going to be 50 basis points. Worst case scenario, 75 basis points. But I think the market has priced in 50 basis points. But if inflation turns out to be really, really, really bad, then they know Powell has to be more aggressive, 75 basis points. And he said during his last meeting, he's not afraid to go higher if he needs to, which means that he could do 100 basis points if he really needs to.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully that doesn't happen, right? And then we have 2 more meetings in November and December too. So it's a cat and mouse game, basically. So Powell is listening, trying to be very reactive to what he's seeing, the data that's being presented to us, right? So I think what's going to be discussed next month will be based on what comes out tomorrow. So tomorrow, I think, is an absolutely huge day. But without scaring the bejesus out of everyone, I do think tomorrow's numbers will be good. They will come in as expected or even better on the downside, meaning that we will see headline inflation go down. Core inflation may not go down. Core inflation still might go up, but headline inflation will go down due to lowering energy prices. But as for how that relates to Ethereum, I don't think the two relates at all. Ethereum's merge will happen, whether it's September or it gets delayed more. It's going to happen. They're already testing on a testnet. I think we've been waiting long enough. It's going to happen. But what I don't like seeing right now is like Justin Sun trying to, spur up this conversation about this new ETH fork that may still be that may still happen after the merge, because there are certain miners that want to stay mining, and I don't like that whole debacle that's going on. It'll probably happen because whenever there's a big event, there's always like people that want to, they want to create another cash grab, and that's what this will be. We have seen many contentious forks in the past due to cash grabs, right? Yeah. So there's that, but overall, I think moving proof of stake, the biggest near-term benefit will be the ETH issuance will drop by 90%.
Yeah.
And because it drops so much, and you take into the coin burning that's still happening, it basically makes ETH deflationary. And that is huge. And as the market picks up and DeFi activity goes up, there's more burning, and it becomes very deflationary. So near term, moving to proof of stake, why that's bullish is because the ETH issuance drops significantly. So that's why so many people are bullish on it. And I'm bullish on Ethereum overall because I think their demise is greatly exaggerated. No one is really close to Ethereum at this point.
Yeah, totally agree.
I have one question for you, George, and I'm trying to piece this together even in my brain as we go through this. But I usually try to catch your show before we go live. Today was not one of the days I was able, but I did see that you discussed Cathie Woods, and you mentioned that here a second ago. Something I saw interesting about the article that was in dealing with Cathie Woods this morning, other than the fact that she obviously lost a lot of money by selling Coinbase now that BlackRock has gotten involved there. The point she was trying to make, though, is that this move could show the beginning signs of that institutional adoption of crypto and the institutional money coming into the space in crypto. Do you agree that that's what we're starting to see develop? And then what are your thoughts about that overall? Because to me, I'm almost looking at this as saying like, all right, this is a bullish sign. Not that we like BlackRock. Of course, if you go do your history on the BlackRock's history, you'll know how corrupt and how power grabbing that company is. But it could be the sign of institution money coming. But that doesn't mean pain won't come in the first place, because what we know that companies like BlackRock like to do is steal the supply from the average retail investor. How do they do that? They manipulate the media, they manipulate the space to get everyone really fearful before they grab the supply, and then it takes off. What are your thoughts about all of that?
Yeah, Kathy Wood. Some speculate. I don't know if some, but people have told me maybe she got out of Coinbase because she knew BlackRock was going to get involved. So that's an interesting theory that has been proposed. But I don't know if that's actually true. I don't know if she got any insight into that. But yeah, she's been making some questionable moves. Obviously, she sold Coinbase right before the BlackRock thing and lost a boatload of money, like 70 or 80%. This morning I covered she sold Block for NVIDIA, even though NVIDIA is going to be weak because of Ethereum moving to proof of stake. The miners are not going to be buying as many GPUs. NVIDIA. That's for sure. And that's already slowed down, right? So I don't even know.
NVIDIA's up like 1,000% the last 3 years because of all the miners.
Yeah.
It's ridiculous. If you look at it, NVIDIA's market cap, they went from what, like 60 billion to like $800 billion in 2 years. And it was mostly the mining.
Yeah. I mean, every single GPU they produce, and they could produce, you know, they kept raising the price and miners would buy it, right? So every single one they could produce as much as they want, and it would be sold, and that's what was happening the last few years. But that's not going to be the case anymore moving forward. I doubt people will flock and buy GPUs just so they can mine Ethereum Classic. You know, that's just not going to happen. So I don't know. First of all, I don't know about that move. Second of all, as for BlackRock, you know, BlackRock has been teasing everyone for many years. They've been talking about how Bitcoin is interesting and they want to get in and all that stuff, right? So I do think secretly behind the scenes, they've been making moves.
Yeah.
It's been speculated that they are the ones that force Elon and Tesla to stop accepting Bitcoin payments because, you know, around that time is all this ESG concerns. At least that's what Elon said. But BlackRock is the second or third largest Tesla holder. So some rumors that they were the ones, you know, behind it. And, you know, I think they've been pulling the strings. They've been pulling a lot of strings behind the scenes. But the fact that they have finally announced that they're doing this, they're using Coinbase Prime to offer Coinbase to institutional investors, that says to me that possibly they made all the moves that they were going to make, or they've accumulated enough of either companies or shares or Bitcoin itself that they are ready to really go and you know, bring everyone in, right? So that's kind of like what it says to me, that they're ready finally.
And
but over the years, I have no doubt they've been pulling the strings. And it's not a good thing. We don't want to see BlackRock pulling the strings and making moves and doing things behind the scenes, right? We certainly don't want to see that. But there's no doubt that institutional interest really drove the market up in 2021. And I do think that will continue. And there's going to be a lot more of it coming.
Well, and I think that's going to be exciting to watch in the future as we talk about institutions getting the space. But here's, I think, what people need to prepare themselves for. If we're waiting for this like grand parade of, all right, all the institutions are here, it's now time for the crypto space to explode and go bullish, that's not going to happen. There's going to be a really big pain point. Because, again, what these institutions want is they want your supply. That's how they play the game. They're going to want a nice, cheap place to come in. And I don't know when it's going to happen. But, like, have you seen this chart, George? I'm going to go to my screen real quick, Smay. This comparison between Bitcoin now and Amazon back to 09, 10. Really bullish. When you just look at this chart, you're just like, wow, look at this. If Bitcoin follows this perfectly, that'd be phenomenal. Well, look at this little wick right here. And, of course, it's not following it perfectly. And this wasn't supposed to be candle for candle perfect. It's supposed to be kind of momentum. This wick before this massive bull rally dips down. This is the weekly chart, by the way, if anyone's watching, dips down back to a previous pain point. Could we potentially see, as institution comes in and a lot of pain in the market, where we have a weekly candle have a massive bear wick, A massive pain wick that scares the crap out of retail investors before the institutional money says, all right, now we got that price back down. If we're going to keep comparison back down to 17.6, 17.5, somewhere in that region, and now we can buy up all our masses while all the retail investors are scared. Do you think that that's something that could happen here in the future?
I mean, it could always happen. Here's the thing. Here's how I would counter that point. Yes, it could happen, but Amazon, as big as they are, they're limited to the US market, right? So Bitcoin is a global thing, you know? It's not just based, I think those of us in the US, we kind of focus around the US more, and we think the US is the center point. And I think that's a valid point for many things, but Bitcoin is not just being bought and sold and traded and used in America. I mean, worldwide, right? And it's one of the reasons why people love Bitcoin, because it's non-sovereign and no one controls it and so forth. So even though you may have, let's say, some bad actors like BlackRock, whoever, that may want to dump it down, there could be actors from other countries that are buying it up. They can't predict those things. I think with Amazon, if it's just US based, they probably have more control and they could probably do that much easier. But with something like Bitcoin, I tend to think that you don't know who's involved, right? There's a lot of shadow figures behind the scenes. BlackRock is BlackRock, but there's probably others like BlackRock around the world that may have different agendas and may be wanting to buy when BlackRock is selling, right?
Yeah.
So we don't know. So I do think that does help Bitcoin because it is global. It's being bought and traded everywhere, and that adoption is only growing. So it could happen, but maybe it won't. It doesn't happen, right? So I guess my point is, should people prepare for that? Sure, but should they stay on the sidelines because of it, waiting for that dip, waiting for a lower low?
Not.
My answer would be no.
Absolutely.
Absolutely not. Well, George, thank you so very much for joining us today and helping us to understand what's going on in cryptocurrency. We've really enjoyed having you on the show. We definitely want to have you back. We're over time a little bit, but George, I think everybody who's watching this probably already follows you. But for the one guy out there, where can we find you?
You can find me on OnlyFans. No.
Oh, okay. Oh. That's where George gets his money for investing in Bitcoin, guys. Okay.
Yeah, just find me on CryptosRUs.
You want some Lego pics? You know where to go. What'd you say? Go ahead.
That threw me off. You can find me on CryptosRUs on YouTube. All right. I think people could search for that.
Well, George, thank you so much for coming back on the channel, my friend. I'm really looking forward to hopefully doing it again sometime in the future. Thank you so much, guys. We are going to wrap out the show. Before we do, though, I do believe that Smay has something that he needs to share with people. Isn't that right, Smay?
Oh,
There's a couple things we have to do.
There's a couple things we
This
have
is
to
going to be
do.
a later show.
It's going to be a later show.
Yeah.
gee whiz, there's all kinds of things I would like to do. But one of my most particularly favorite ones is I get to tell you guys about something that really is close to my heart. I'm going to look at Tim while I say this. It's very close to my
With
heart.
that twinkle in your eye?
You got to get the twinkles.
Yeah.
So
You gotta
why-
get the twinkle.
I'll be here for the twinkle.
So
Yeah.
here, guys. What is one of the most frustrating and horrible things that you ever have to do every year?
Go to Olive
Dishes.
Garden.
I like Olive Garden. I actually had Olive Garden yesterday
Oh.
with my parents.
Well, then
Yeah,
we
it was
can't be
great.
friends.
But I know what you want us to answer, and that's
Yeah.
freaking taxes.
Yes,
Taxes!
Tim.
Golly, I
Doing
hate those things.
taxes.
Gosh.
Hey
Those
guys,
things suck.
hey government, I'm gonna tell you this: doing taxes sucks.
Yeah.
So, anyways, guys, what's the best way to enjoy? What's a way that you can actually get to that time in the year, and even just plan for it leading up to that time of the year, and just be like, I enjoy doing my taxes.
I got an idea.
Well, I have an even better idea.
Okay.
My idea.
You don't even know my idea.
You don't know the idea.
My idea is
My idea.
Anthony Price.
He's got Price in his name.
I'm gonna make these lead ups bigger every time, guys. Anthony Price. He
Whoa.
is, guys. I'm telling you, he is our go-to crypto CPA. He's helped people save so much money. Tim, guys, we did an interview with him. If you guys want to see how much money he saved for some of his clients,
like a
go
bajillion
check
dollars.
out that video. We posted a couple like a week ago or
He
something.
knows
like that.
his numbers.
He knows his numbers. And I tell you what, he's going to help you get as much of those numbers back from taxes. So I don't know what else to tell you other than you need to go sign up for a free 15 to 20 minute consultation with him. Link below.
He's gonna bring down the price of your taxes.
Tim, how do you feel about taxes?
I freaking hate them.
Yeah, and what do you think would make you feel better about taxes?
Having a CPA do them for me, which I already do it with my American monies. So now when I'm getting my crypto monies in place, I need a crypto guy.
But what CPA?
It's probably going to do somebody named Anthony Price.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. So you guys have Tim's endorsement.
Hey.
Jebb, if you're going to do your taxes, who are you going to get to be your CPA?
I want a CPA who has something to do with money in his name. So Anthony Price it is.
Oh!
Boom.
Oh!
Got
Guys.
the name for the job.
So we have 2 endorsements. You heard it here first. Go
Listen.
check out link in the description.
Listen. I had a friend in high school named Blaze, and he worked at Blaze Pizza. I was told he was the best pizzeria person.
I
that
say,
they
if
ever
he
had.
wasn't promoted to manager
their
on the
name.
first day, something went wrong.
I'll tell you what, though. You know what Anthony Price's middle name is? Anthony Bullish
Save.
on that price.
Bullish on that price.
This is the
That's his rapper
longest.
name.
This is the longest partner shout out I think we've ever
So-
done.
He's probably watching right now.
So
Like,
by
what are
the
these
way,
people doing with my money?
I'm trying to segue. I was trying to segue out of it, Tim, and then
Well,
we got brought back into
Speaking
it.
of price, you know what price we have to do now?
We have to hold on.
That was terrible.
We have to price analysis these. We have to price analysis. I'm trying to figure out what your
This is a hard
segue
one.
is.
Price
Price
predictions!
predictions!
Hey, hot on
Price
price
predictions.
predictions! Gosh.
Oh, yeah.
I forgot we had price predictions.
Price.
We do have
Yeah.
price predictions.
Price
Oh, crap.
and I am the reigning champ, so I get to go first.
Okay.
I'm going to make this nice, short, and sweet. I think that we're going to be going down, guys. I think inflation is going to be a little higher than we want it to be. And I think that we're going to be going down to about 22. I'm going to call it 22.5. Even though I think we could touch 22. It's flat. I'm going to go with 22.5.
22.5.
Smay, you can go second.
22.5.
I'm gonna go second.
Okay. You're going to go second.
Let's let Jebb clean up.
Okay. Tim, what is your price prediction?
I just said
You just said
22.5.
I just wanted to hear it again to prepare for mine. Gosh, Tim.
Oh, goodness.
It's a part of the analysis. Guys, I'm gonna say that we're gonna be sitting. What is the price at right?
23,000. Just call it 23,000. It's
I-
like 23,070.
It's gonna be 23,000 satoshis. So I think it's gonna be somewhere closer. I think it's gonna be somewhere closer to 20. I think we're gonna have bullish inflation report, which means that inflation is gonna go down.
You know 23,000 Satoshis
I have
is like
no
a
idea.
penny.
Yeah, I have no idea where you're going with this.
I'm headed there. So
You're
just
he-
strap in.
Bitcoin's heading to a
just
penny.
strap
You heard it
in.
here first,
hey, just
guys.
strap in. Strap in. I
JT
think
Scanner, that's where your hashtag Smay Nation gets
it's
you.
bullish
1
because I
cent
think
Bitcoin prediction.
just let me talk. Inflation's gonna go down.
Why would that cause Bitcoin's price to go down?
Give us a price.
I'm
What's
not.
the
I'm
price?
saying Bitcoin's gonna. What's in the box?
What's in the
Bitcoin-
What's in the box?
Bitcoin's gonna go up, and
That's a
that's what I'm
reference.
saying. So it's gonna be 25,000.
What's in the freaking box?
25,000.
25,000.
Wow, I love it. This, I hope he wins. This is the first bullish prediction Smay's given since like March. This is awesome. All right, Jebb, you're at cleanup. 22.5 for me, 25,000 for Smay. What you got?
23.5.
23.5.
Locking it in.
Smash it.
$23,500.
25,000.
We'll go right in the middle.
Guys, I'm just trying to tell you that I think that the inflation report's gonna go down, which means Bitcoin's gonna go up.
I agree.
Okay.
I hope you're right.
Okay.
Goodness gracious. Well, last
What if
thing,
inflation hits like 15%?
I think I
then
would
I
just
will
free.
win for sure.
I mean,
Yeah,
that's
you'll
easy
definitely win.
If
Yeah.
if inflation came out as 15%, I think I would cry. And then, like, you know, in SpongeBob where they pack up the little sack on the end of a stick when they go like
Yeah.
to travel somewhere. That's what I would do. I'd just
Walk
hit the
off
road.
into the sunset
Yeah,
because for some reason there's a sunset underwater. I never understood
I
how
would
they
just
could have
hit the road.
campfires and stoves
Did-
and all kinds of stuff underwater, but they
Did we ever read? I know I saw super chats. Did we read
We have
super chats?
super chats.
at all?
We
Let's
don't.
get.
We have
let's-
not read any of
We're
them.
this is a long show today,
It's a long
guys.
show.
Can I
Let's
be
finish
honest
out
with
with
you?
these super
Can I
chats.
be honest with you? We don't have any super chats.
We do. We
What? Yeah,
absolutely
we do. I saw them.
I promise you that we do.
Smanold, you were wrong.
I
There
don't
were super
have
chats.
any here.
Oh
So,
no, you
uh-oh.
lost them. I thought you said it tracked all of them.
It does. So that's why I'm telling you. I'm pretty
There are
confident there's
super
no
chats.
super chats.
What?
There were super chats.
I watched them
I
with
watched
my
them
eyeballs.
with my eyeballs. Okay, I do know that Mike Markle, I think it was,
Mike
donated
Markle
5
gifted.
He gifted 5 memberships.
He gave 5 memberships.
Yes.
I was sure that there was another one.
I know there was. I don't remember the. I'm trying to remember
Who gave
the
the super chat?
details of what it was.
It was a
I remember
$5 super
seeing
chat.
it.
I read it, and I was
It tracks it on here.
And it
Apparently
doesn't,
not.
No, it does track it on here.
Apparently
Well,
not.
it doesn't sound like it tracks
It was
on
before
there.
George came on.
It does track.
Well,
it on
if in the
here.
next 5 seconds somebody can answer
Let
in
us
chat what
know.
that super chat was, then we will do that.
I got it. Here we go. Because guess what? Even though this is how good our customer service team is, I told them Smay says he has this covered. And they went and copy and pasted anyway. So Smay, you should send them lunch or something.
Boom.
Because I got 2 super chats right here.
That's customer service.
One
for
of them is from Noker, who said, "Who's custody?
That's it,
I trust Capital customer funds. I've been trying to find wallet addresses that
Tim
prove
already had an
Coinbase."
answer for that.
If you go back Noker early in the show, I'm going to save time. I answered that actually in the beginning of the show, so go back and watch that.
Sweet.
Second one, Austin Patrick said, "Good morning. Can we briefly touch over how September is historically a red month and how we think that will affect ETH merge and Basel? Thanks, Basel. Thanks, guys. The thing is, we don't have time to cover. Like, we can touch on that tomorrow, but we don't have time to talk about September being bearish.
September's direction is going to be heavily dictated by the direction of the macro forces that we will find out about when September comes. So we can't really predict that with a lot of certainty. But if you did enjoy today's show, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, follow all of the amazing people that have been on this show over on their Twitters, their Instagram, their TikToks, their, I don't know, their Snapchats, whatever that people have. Make sure to follow all of us everywhere. We really appreciate all of you. I was trying to say, what was the thing that came before Facebook? I'm too young for this.
MySpace.
MySpace. Go follow them on their MySpace. I was trying to make a joke. I said Snapchat. Snapchat's not dead.
I feel it's not dead, but like I don't think people like influencers use Snapchat
This is true.
because then I just feel like it's a weird exchange with the audience.
That is pretty strange. Yeah.
They should use MySpace.
They should use MySpace.
We should make our own social media
Hey, do you
called
have that one
Truth
friend that I have
Freedom
also?
Social Media.
True freedom, social media.
Truth Freedom. Social
Truth
media.
freedom. Okay, well then we're gonna leave that for tomorrow's show. If you enjoyed today's show, hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Make sure to sign up for Anthony Price's short call so that you can figure out your taxes because you definitely want to get those in order. Check out I Trust Capital, sign up for Lux Algo, do all of the things. Before we go, I do just first want to thank each and every single last one of you for watching as always, and I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.